We're in Cape Town, South Africa, and this A340-300 behind me is about to fly us to Antarctica. 5.5 hours south down to Fang Runway, an ice runway on Antarctica. I can't quite believe it. I think this is the most special and remote flight of my life so far. Let's do it. I'm traveling with White Desert today. It's a company running luxury trips to the 7th continent that are really something else. They operate the only private ice runway in Antarctica, and they offer a variety of trips, usually around a week long, but you can do day trips too. I'm going to be headed to their Witchaway camp, one of 2 they offer down here, flying on some amazing aircraft within Antarctica too. So there'll be several videos coming out about the whole experience. For now, join me for the incredible voyage by private A340 from Cape Town to Fang Runway in Dronning Maudland, Antarctica. Tell me your name again on the camera.
Emsichle.
Okay, and
this is Bongi.
Alright. They're my bodyguards today in Cape Town. Escorted through every step of the airport and whisked through everything, super easy. One of the easiest departure experiences I've ever had, I would say. But it's usually pretty good here at Cape Town, quite easy. I've never seen a queue here. Now off to the lounge, special lounge, where we wait to get over to our A340. That's what I want to do. So this is pretty cool. We've got our own dedicated piece of this lounge, which is just a third-party lounge used, I guess. I guess I haven't been in this one. Maybe it's another Priority Pass lounge, but and probably used by some other smaller airlines. But anyway, we get our own little roped-off corner. Yes. Bye.
Bye. Here we go.
So we're on board this A340, and you can tell right away that it's former Emirates. Very old days Emirates, long ago. Their interiors look like this, so you can tell by the desert dune bulkheads. I actually flew on one of these long ago. I believe it was Singapore Airlines and then Emirates, or maybe vice versa, but I flew on one of these way back when Emirates still flew the 340-300 from Gatwick to Dubai. So that was very interesting. And up here, we're all located in the business cabin, but on this particular flight, I'd happily sit on a wooden bench. And this is actually pretty comfortable, especially when it's a small group. It's just 30 people on this flight. Interesting thing about this is, of course, many of the seats back here remain empty, but they use a lot of what this A340 has to offer in terms of both bringing down cargo. So they're bringing down everything, fresh foods, fresh linens, all our stuff, etc. for each trip down, but they're also able to bring a lot of fuel. So that means you have really high minimums when you're talking about the runway at Fang. You need to be sure that if you can't land there, if the weather closes in, which it very well could, you need to have that visibility. If you don't, then the alternate is basically back in Cape Town. So you need to be able to potentially fly 11 hours on this thing, which is pushing towards the further ends of the range of many aircraft. So being able to carry all that extra fuel is a real plus. And they say they like having 4 engines as well, flying down into the remote part of the south, the bottom of the planet. I mean, so amazing. I cannot even quite believe that we're doing this and that we're going to land on a nice runway. It's just so crazy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm flying White Desert. Welcome you aboard our flight to Antarctica. For comfort and safety, we ask you to keep all your small luggage under the seat in front of you, including the duty-free products containing liquids, except if you are seated in emergency exits in every first rows. All luggage, bulky items, and large electronic devices should be stored in your head compartments.
It's exciting just to be on an A340-300 these days, let alone one going to Antarctica. We are about to line up for the runway. Looks like we're number 2 for departure. amazing little turn over the Cape of Good Hope. We just left Africa behind. That was our last sight of the continent on the way to the 7th continent. I just can't believe it. It's amazing. And I feel like that turn was just so we could get that nice look, albeit with a little glare from the sun, of the bottom tip of Africa. How cool. What a privilege to be in this position, on this flight, doing this trip.
Why did Yolanda put extra?
It is a pleasure to have you on board, and once again I'd like to thank you for choosing White Desert. Your comfort and safety are very important for us, so I recommend you keep your seatbelt fastened whenever you are seated, and whenever the fastened seatbelt sign is on. If you want to rest, make sure your seatbelt is visible so the crew can check.
No, not that one. That one.
Look at me now, I'm a fish.
Oh no.
Came down, mate. Let's try that again.
If it doesn't work, they're gonna make me cut this out.
Well, that's amazing.
You know, that business class is nice, but it's really nice to be back here in basically your private A340. There's some crew for the return leg resting back there, taking it easy because they're going to fly this thing back after about 3 or 4 hours on the ground. But up here it's just empty, a couple people only. You can hang out, you can take whatever seat you want. You know, it's nice up there, but this is the best. This is that feeling of having a wide body to yourself, pretty much. Very special. When you're operating to an ice runway, are there other considerations beside time and types of malfunctions where you would prefer to return to a real runway versus ice runway?
Well, of course, having enough fuel to go and come back. Once you use the ETP, really doesn't mean anything because our point of no return is actually the destination.
Right.
We can go there and still come back with enough reserves in Cape Town.
Yeah.
So anything that degrades the performance of the airplane, either for landing or could have an impact on dispatch from ice, we may not be able to go and land, so we need to come back. And of course there are other reasons that we could have to go back, but are not related to performance or the airplane. Normally we do not start our descent until we get enough assurance that the runway is reporting favorable conditions in terms of braking coefficient, wind direction, temperature, which are things that are very important for us because the colder the runway, the better the attraction and the braking coefficient. If it starts going up and goes above -10, we start to be concerned because it gets slushy. Above -6 we stop operating. We cannot guarantee the quality of the runway.
Yeah.
Normally it doesn't go above -10, except during December, January, May go, and then we operate at night like today.
Yeah.
I mean, night means day because it's always day, but the temperatures go down about 4 or 5 degrees, which brings the temperature in the range of the ideal temperature. What we didn't have before was like an air starter or the ground power unit. That's why 340 comes handy because you can keep one engine running. It doesn't use much fuel. You know, an APU uses about 175 kilos per hour. An engine in idle uses 250 kilos per hour. So it's not much different, and it's like a backup APU because if the APU shuts down, and we could not start the engines and come back.
Yeah.
So we kept one engine running. Now we have ground power unit and air starter unit. That means we can now shut down. Before we do that, we need assurance that both units have been tested, started, running appropriately, so we can shut down the engines. We kind of take a parallel equivalent condition between this runway and the compacted snow runway, which gives a braking coefficient in the region of 0.30 and 35, sometimes even 0.40, which is not so bad actually compared to a wet runway. So we use code number 4. When we land, actually we use that much distance that we calculated.
Yeah.
We don't operate if the contrast is less than moderate. So we have contrast of horizon and needs to be medium or good. There's no minimums because it needs to be visual by the time you get down to your minimum safe altitude, which is about 7,000 feet. So we spot the runway, we know what it is, and we go for it.
So it's purely visual. There's no
Purely
runway.
visual.
Obviously, you don't have ILS, that kind of thing.
Of
Nothing,
course
nothing,
not.
nothing.
So it's a great pleasure to come back here every time.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing to being in another planet is to go to Antarctica. You've been here before?
Never.
No? You will feel outside of your world.
Taking off again, is it just like a standard takeoff, or are there special considerations?
It is, except that we need to use full power on this type of runway. Otherwise, it's a different type of configuration of flaps for takeoff. We don't want to stay too long at the ground on this type of runway, so we tend to use lower speeds to go out of there. It's again a visual departure with a right turn, direct to the first point en route, but it's just another takeoff.
So you would use more flap in this case?
You use more flap.
Yeah. How long is the runway?
3,000 meters. Well, that's not a runway. It's actually a piece of blue glacial ice where they carved like a rectangular shape thing called a runway.
Yeah.
Which is treated, it's carved, it's grooved, and it's very well treated. They do a wonderful job, these guys on there. And this year they've even put some lights to identify the runway. So now, well, it's the first time I come this year, so I haven't seen them yet, but they switch them on just before we land. They don't switch them on too early because they warm up and they start melting the ice around. I mean, they can only switch them on just before we go.
So how much fuel did you take today?
Block fuel was 86 tons. We will be landing with 45 tons, and then we're still going to leave about 5 tons on the ground for the Twin Otters and Baslers that fly down to the South Pole. So they use jet fuel, so we can dump. That's why the 340 is a good airplane. We can carry fuel for both sectors, plus leave some fuel here for the guys.
I guess you don't get much chatter on the radios down here.
Nothing. It's the most wonderful flight to do. On a Saturday afternoon, with this type of weather, going to an ice runway, it's, you know, what else?
Everybody's getting dressed now into the polar gear. The thing they do is about an hour and a half before landing in Antarctica, they turn the temperature of the cabin way down to start getting you acclimated, and also you can put on your base layers and all that stuff and not overheat. So it's pretty cool because everyone's obviously very excited doing that, and even the crew is all moving around, and the pilots that are going to operate the return leg are up after their naps, and yeah, everyone's moving around and psyched. I get the sense that even the people who do this regularly, cabin crew, the people from White Desert who, you know, this is their work, they are nevertheless all quite excited every time this happens, which it's always great to see people having fun, even when they are doing a repetitive thing, something that's their work, something that happens quite often for them, something special, something fun, something they take pride in. It's certainly very exciting. I really can't wait to see the ice. If I get a shot of you, you look amazing.
Oh, thank you, yay!
Thank you. Hi, boss. How are you? Good. Hi, ladies, gentlemen. Welcome to Antarctica. Hi there. Welcome. Bye. Enjoy. Lady in the black. Enjoy. Welcome you.
On board this flight is our group, which is headed to Wichita Camp, a half-hour flight from here, as well as a group headed to the Echo Camp, which is just a quick drive from the runway. There's also a bunch of people who are here on a day trip. They'll get a taste of Antarctica for a few hours before flying back on this plane to Cape Town. Look at this, getting off an A340 in Antarctica. Amazing, and it's beautiful weather. It's cold, but it's not so cold. A beautiful landing, Captain.
Thank you very much.
Also, look, there's a Basler BT-67 over here. For those of you who don't know, these are modified, upgraded DC-3s. Gutted, redone entirely, and with more modern engines put on. We'll be on some later, so you get to see more of that. I have to say the 5.5 hours being on that plane, the first 4 hours or so, it was hard to kind of comprehend where you were heading. I was well aware. You could see that we were heading south over open ocean below Africa, but it kind of felt so impossible. It's something I really didn't consider being able to do, for even if I thought of Antarctica and going there maybe. That seemed a stretch, but to think of going there on a big jet out of Cape Town flying south, that thought has never crossed my mind until I found out about White Desert and what they do. Started seeing the videos of big jets landing down here as well. It felt unreal for quite a while, and only right at the end, because there was cloud below us until really close to the edge of the continent itself, where we started to see the pack ice just in the last 20 minutes or so. We got the sight, we got the visual, and then we were just over open, endless ice. And these mountains showed up. Wolf's Fang. These mountains are why they're called that. They look like wolf's fangs. The Norwegians named it Ulvetanna, I believe is how they say it. I will say though, your hands do start to get cold. I'm not wearing any gloves so I can film. And yeah, I'm starting to feel it. It's cold enough, especially having come from summer in Cape Town. Amazing. Next up, we're boarding the Basler for the half-hour flight up to Wichita, but I'm going to save that for next time and show you both Basler flights we did during the week, including one in the cockpit. Make sure to hit that like button below so YouTube shows it to you once it's out. Thanks for coming along. For Flight Radar 24 in Antarctica, I'm Gabe Lee.